fucking guy here. He said, look, I feel bad for Greenwald, but can we all just admit this is funny? Does everything have to be political? A man in a dress licking feet for money is funny. Just have a laugh. You can go back to respecting his journalism tomorrow. And I also kind of agree with this, like, top poster here, right? It's a horrifying violation of privacy that is obviously politically motivated, and even people who hate the yay Hamas contingent of the internet should be upset by this. Yeah, I feel like this is a very bad thing to have happened. It's a very, like, huge violation of privacy. And I hope he can use every angle of lawfare that he can to take down the person who did this to him, because that's really fucked up. Like, I don't give a shit, like, what people's weird-ass fetishes are, as long as they are between consenting adults and done in the privacy of their own home. If you're not trying to be a degenerate and dragging it out into public, I could give a shit less what you do, as it were. I just make sure it's consenting adults and not in public. So I feel really bad when, like, people get this kind of shit leaked about them. It was the same with Destiny, as much as I dislike that... I don't want to call him a person, but as much as I dislike him, it was fucking weird when people were posting videos of him. But Glenn himself also came out and made a statement. But he says up here, last night, videos were released online depicting behavior in my private life. Some were distorted and others were not. They were published without my knowledge or consent, and its publication was therefore criminal. Though we do not yet know exactly who is responsible, we are close to knowing, and the motive was a maliciously political one. And this doesn't surprise me, because there are deranged sociopathic people who want to discredit by any means necessary. And it's very weird, because I have to imagine that the people who leaked this are probably the people who are like, oh yes, love and tolerance. Sexuality is a spectrum. We must celebrate everyone's sexuality. Like, I would probably put money on it being one of those kinds of people. But they are the first ones to use someone's sexuality against them if they feel like it will do damage to their reputation, which is kind of fucking crazy. It's a little fucking insane. Why choose to be in Brazil? I don't know. All of the people I know who have married Brazilians had them escape Brazil instead of going to Brazil. I don't know, man. He didn't want the glowies to get him or something. Canadian healthcare administrator. Why? It's easy access to hot black men. Does he have an open relationship with his husband? What is he? Why does he need other hot black men for? He's living La Vida Loca. Don't you bring fucking Ricky Martin into this! His husband died. I'm finding out so much Glenn Greenwald lore today. What is happening? What is happening? Yes, I will. Oh my god. You think it makes more sense than marrying a Canadian and moving there at least? I mean, I guess so. The lore, it deepens. He runs a tourism business where you can stay with sexy men. Do you have a link to that? Is there a link to the sexy Brazil tourism?
Yes!
It was to get into their heads. They leaked this because they perceive him as right-leaning and expect him to be shunned by the right because right-wing fascists are homophobic, don't you know? Yeah. Yeah. Kirsche turned him gay. The real reason is that he broke a story involving corruption and the USA government accused him of treason. It was back in 2013 during the Snowden leaks. I can't tell it's real anymore, chat. I do agree with him, though. I'm glad that somehow he's already close to knowing who leaked it, and I hope that he brings down the full brunt of any kind of lawfare he can on this person, because leaking this kind of intimate shit is despicable on a incredibly high level. As for the content of the videos, I have no embarrassment or regret about them. The videos depict consenting adults engaged in intimate actions in their private lives. They all display fully consensual behavior harming nobody. Obviously, it can be uncomfortable and unpleasant when your private behavior is made public against your will. That's why the behavior is private in the first place. But the only wrongdoing here is the criminal and malicious publication of the videos in an attempt to malign perceived political enemies and advance a political agenda. And once again, I agree with him. I agree, 100%. Like, if this is something you enjoy doing and it's meant to stay private, there's no reason to, like, you know, grovel and be embarrassed about it. Like, yeah, it is embarrassing to have it on display publicly because, again, it is kind of funny to see a grown man in women's clothing licking another man's feet. Like, that's kind of funny. But it's just like, we shouldn't even know about it, as it were. And it doesn't change the work that he does or who he is as a person, harming nobody. Whoever leaked that is now a felon. Revenge porn is illegal federally now. Yep. And I hope they face as much punishment as they possibly can. You have to narrow down whose toes are being sucked, but we're narrowing it down. Jesus Christ. At least Thailand has a place called Bangkok to know what you're getting into when you enter the country. True. And if you're lucky, then the gods are she. Others are, of course, free to form their own judgments, as some are prone to do about others' private lives. It won't change my work. I will continue all the many prongs of my journalism and pursue the causes most important to me, exactly as before. Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna have a little laugh at a grown man in women's clothing licking another man's feet. Like, that's just impossible. It is kind of funny. But I can have a little laugh and also acknowledge that it is incredibly wrong and a vast violation of this man's privacy, and hopefully he can sue the fuck out of the person who did this, either criminally or civilly, whichever one nets him the most recompense. Patchouli, thank you. Pro tip, do not record your escapades. Someone will get butthurt and they will definitely leak it. Yeah, I am strictly anti-recording. I've definitely had people I was dating in the past ask, and I was like, yeah, no, not about that life. Don't do that. Home sellers face an absolutely brutal market that's tilting in buyers' favor. Ryan Sparks, that sounds like a porn name, has been trying to sell his mom's house in Jupiter, Florida for the past 6 months. Sparks was in college when his parents purchased the home in 1997, but his father, a general contractor, passed away recently and his mother moved into assisted living. The home was paid off, but taxes and utility bills on top of homeowner association fees were adding up to more than $2,000 a month. Since his mom was not going to move back into the house, he thought he would sell it. He didn't expect the market to be this barren. Since he listed the 5-bedroom home in November, the lack of interest has prompted him to lower the asking price by $241,000 so far. The home is currently listed at $1.15 million, and so far it has only received one lowball offer of $800,000. They just like me, for real? Like, bitch, I'm gonna offer you what this house is supposed to be worth, not what its inflation price is. Fuck you, buddy. That was predicted on a contingency that the buyer be able to sell their current home. This is also why sellers would love me. I have no real contingencies besides I want an inspection. Mine, 2K a month for nothing? Yeah, why not just rent it out, man? I highly doubt that home is gonna be worth $1.15 million. Like, I don't know what the house is. Is this a link to it? Yeah, there's no way. There's no 9,966 square foot lot, built in 97, 5-bed, 4-bath, 2.6K square feet. There's no way this is a $1.1 million home. There's no fucking way. It's got a really nice entryway, though. It is a nice home. It's not like a super cheap home, but I don't think it's 1.15 million, dude. Look at this fucking builder quality kitchen. This is like the kitchen that was here when the house was fucking built. Zero upgrades. They didn't even get nicer fucking cabinets. You're trying to sell a house for 1.15 million and it doesn't even have floor to ceiling cabinet space and it doesn't have double ovens? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you smoking crack? Actually on drugs. Holy fuck. I would have definitely probably not have even done that 800,000 offer, but I can see that 800,000 being somewhat realistic. That's a cute little space to put your stuffed animals. That's a cute little space there. Someone would put something spooky up there and spook me one day, and then I'd stab them in the heart, as you do. As you do. Why is it all white? Because boomers and millennials have done nothing but destroy homes. It's like their entire goal is to remove any semblance of, like, a character from a house and just make it a bland, blank slate. And unfortunately, realtors also encourage people to do this to their houses before they sell. Because if you blank slate like gray, beige, white your house before you sell it, it has a higher chance of selling because for some reason too many people can't perceive breakfast. And so if they see like a nicely lit room with like wood paneling and dark green walls, they're like, oh, I don't really like that. Oh, I don't know how I feel about this room. That's weird. But if it's all white or gray or beige, they're just like, oh, I can imagine doing so many things to this room. It's got so much room for activities. Look at what I can do here. It's so white. I hate those people, and I think that they should be used as cattle on farms. It's so white, you can easier add your own paint to it. Houses like that normally go for around 500 to 550K in Florida. Asking double is nuts. Yeah, like this is a nice bathroom. It's not 1.15 million fucking nice, especially for just a bathroom, right? Like the one thing that adds like a crazy amount of value is your kitchen. And so if I see a 1 million plus home that has like a basically builder grade kitchen, I'm like, you're fucking high. You're fucking out of your mind. Put down the meth pipe and accurately price your fucking house. That's a cute little table and bench though. I like that. It's so white your credit score increases while you're in it. Jesus Christ. It was explained to you once that the idea these days is that you get to color from decorations and paintings and shit. You think it's because white paint is cheap as hell? I don't know. I like three-season porches that have these kind of fucking cobblestone floors. I think those are really nice. I enjoy those. I enjoy those quite a bit. Ooh, I don't want to put my feet in that. That looks fucking awful. Ooh, imagine like a little fucking gator in there touching your toesies. I don't like that. I don't like that. Yeah, they have no fucking yard. They're just literally no fucking yard, dude. It's super close to their neighbors. This is not, he's not gonna sell this for what he wants. And like a lot of these articles try to make you feel bad for the home sellers, but it's like, no, you get what you fucking deserve, you piece of shit. I do not feel bad for any of these home sellers. It was just a ridiculous offer, Sparks, who works in the healthcare industry, told Market Watch. Yeah, no, it was actually a reasonable offer. You are the one being ridiculous, Mr. Porn Star having name. He is now deciding whether to sell now and potentially regret it if prices go up in the near future. Ooh, I want the drugs this man is taking. Or sell now and take what he can get before prices go down further. This is what you should do. But he doesn't want to cut the price anymore. This isn't even the case of like he bought a house and needs to take into account how much money he spent on the house versus how much he's going to make. This was literally I inherited this from my parents, one who is dead and the other who is in a home, and now I just get free fucking money from selling this property. How selfish can you fucking be? What a narcissistic shit cunt, dude. Holy fuck. We're reaching the bottom to where we're thinking we can go, Sparks said. Alternatively, we would see if it's worth trying to just rent the house for a year and then try to sell again a year from now, seeing if the market might be better. I'm sorry, you missed the fucking boat to take advantage of dumb buyers who were buying at peak fucking prices. You have missed that boat to take advantage of people who don't know any better. It's all downhill from now, baby. Despite the dire market, he's optimistic about the house's prospects due to its location, which backs up to a preserve and a waterway. Yeah, but it has no fucking land, man. Elsewhere in the South, Anna and Austin Braxick have also been having a hard time selling his home in Charlotte, North Carolina. Since they first listed the property in mid-April, they have cut the asking price by $50,000. That's not really a lot. The Braxicks have offered a rate buy-down to buyers to sweeten the deal, agreeing to pay cash up front to reduce their mortgage rate. But we're just not seeing the traffic down here in Charlotte, Austin Braxick said. Even 4 or 5 months ago, the house would have gone in a weekend. It was that hot, but it's slowed down big time. It's absolutely brutal right now. No sympathy! Get fucked! The couple bought the home during the pandemic. Oh, fucking triple get fucked. I have zero sympathy for you buying a house at the lowest prices and the lowest rates in fucking decades. And then you probably trying to sell that shit for way more than what it's actually equitably worth. And have recently been preparing to move to Cincinnati. He had come to Charlotte for a job, but with 3 kids and the ability to work remotely, he wanted to be closer to family in the Midwest. I felt like the timing made sense, Braxick, who works in the management consulting industry, told MarketWatch. Unlike his experience as a home seller in Charlotte, he faced stiff competition as a buyer in Cincinnati. He has closed on a 5-bedroom home in Cincinnati and plans to move in early June, but had to act very quickly and forgo inspections to be competitive. And this is how the New England market has been as well. You like, if you want a inspection of your home, which you should never forgo inspections. Most people would just pass you over because almost every home was like a bidding war. And if you were just like, yeah, I'm not going to do an inspection, people would be more likely to take you. Homes in that area were going way over the asking price, he said. The two sellers' experiences underscore growing evidence that housing market dynamics between buyers and sellers have flipped over the past few weeks. In many local U.S. housing markets, there are far more sellers than buyers. There were nearly 500,000 more sellers than buyers in April, according to a new report by the real estate brokerage Redfin, the highest figure ever since the company began tracking it in 2013. Redfin looked at the number of active listings and compared it with the number of buyers, based on an estimate of how many buyers toured homes and then went on to purchase them. Yeah, two of the houses that I put bids on have not only been on market for like over 100 days each, but they have little to no interest activity, both noted on Zillow, as well as the seller's realtor had mentioned to us that we were the only ones to tour one of the houses at all. And the other house, we were the only people to tour it in several months. So I feel like you'll get what you fucking deserve, home sellers. Here's a little graph showing you the number of sellers and buyers. Some buyers really dip fucking out of fucking shit here. Goddamn. In other words, it's a buyer's market, the company said. About 1.9 million homeowners were selling their properties in April, the highest number since March 2020. The strongest buyer's markets were in Miami. There were nearly 22,000 sellers and 7,300 buyers. That's crazy. That disparity is insane. Many sellers have yet to see the writing on the wall. To be sure, many markets still remain a hot seller's market. Among the 50 most populous metropolitan areas in the U.S., the top sellers markets included Newark, New Jersey, Nassau County, New York, Montgomery County, PA. In Newark, there were nearly 10,000 buyers and only about 5,200 sellers in April, while home prices were up 12.2% from the same month a year earlier. But across the country overall, sellers are losing their upper hand in the housing market, even if they haven't realized it yet. I'm looking at you, New England retards! The balance of power in the U.S. housing market has shifted toward the buyers, but a lot of sellers have yet to see or accept the writing on the wall, said Asad Khan, a senior economist at Redfin. Listed homes are spending more time on market than they have in years. About 44% of home listings in April had been on the market for 60 days or longer, the highest share for that month in 5 years. Stale inventory is piling up in part because many sellers are overpricing their homes, using sky-high comps from the recent sellers market that aren't realistic today. In some cases, sellers are pricing high because they bought at the peak of the market and are trying to recoup their investment. Looking at you, New England retards! As a result, price cuts have become more common this spring. About 1 in 5 home listings have had their prices reduced in April, the highest share for that month in 9 years, according to separate data from Realtor.com. The metro areas with the most listings that had a price cut were Phoenix, Arizona, Tampa, Florida, and Jacksonville, Florida. Realtor.com is operated by a News Corp subsidiary, Move Inc. MarketWatch publisher Dow Jones is also a subsidiary of News Corp. Would you look at a real fucking journalist? I am shocked. Advice for struggling sellers: give it some time. By slashing prices, homeowners are actually traveling down a well-trodden path. Builders have been cutting home prices or dangling perks, such as offering to pay for closing costs or provide money up front to lower a buyer's mortgage rate for the past few years. In May, a third of builders cut home prices and 61% offered sales incentives, according to a recent survey by the National Association of Home Builders, an industry lobbying group. One strategy for homeowners struggling to sell their homes is to simply hold off. One real estate agent advised. Instead of repeatedly cutting prices in an attempt to make their home more appealing to buyers, sellers should consider turning the property into a rental instead. Again, for the New England retards, the prices that people keep trying to rent these homes at are incredibly unrealistic. And that's why so many of these homes that were bought last year have turned up back on market, because the people who bought them without a renter cannot afford the mortgage payments that they're required. And so they've been trying to offload and sell them. One of these houses I've been looking at has been on market once again for almost an entire year after being bought at the beginning of last year. And then they tried to fix just the electrical and then flip it and sell it. And it's not going to sell for the amount that they wanted to sell for, because it shouldn't have sold for the amount that they purchased it for, but I guess these people thought the seller's market was gonna last for fucking ever. My suggestion is give it some time. Lee Linhart, a Hendersonville, North Carolina-based broker and owner of Remax Rising, told MarketWatch. Linhart oversees offices across North Carolina and South Carolina, as well as in Tennessee. Rent your house out if you can, and let the market readjust to get back to where you paid for it, whether that's a year or two, he added. That's gonna be interesting. I feel like next year we're gonna see worse dips than this year. I feel like it's gonna get kind of bad for sellers, actually. The housing bubble popping will be biblical. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nearly half of Gen Z says monogamy is outdated. Close to half of Gen Z believes monogamy is an outdated norm in modern relationships, according to a new report from Radin Solicitors. Survey data reveals Gen Z, the cohort currently aged up to 28, expresses greater comfort with non-monogamous relationships than previous generations. Experts spoke with Newsweek about what may be behind the numbers. And I know not to believe any sort of survey data or any sort of like fucking polling data at face value. However, we have had a million different articles about how Gen Z prioritizes having friends with benefits or situationships over something that is an actual relationship. And I'm not sure exactly why this is, why the generation below us feels the need to be like, yeah, having monogamy is actually a bad thing. Maybe it's like the instant gratification that they grew up with. I have no idea. I have no idea. I also didn't know that Gen Z apparently goes up to age 28. I thought 28-year-olds were still fucking millennials. What the fuck? The findings reflect a transformation in how young Americans approach romantic and sexual relationships, with 42% of those aged 18 to 24 believing that monogamy is no longer a realistic ideal in modern relationships. I would like to know why. Why would you say that that's not a realistic ideal? What the fuck? The shifting views among Gen Z carry implications for family formation, social norms, and future marriage rates in the United States. As new generations challenge traditional assumptions about love, commitment, and partnership, societal structures may adapt to reflect broader choices in relationship models. These patterns could shape household dynamics, economic planning, and even public policy for decades to come, experts and social scientists suggest. The fact that they threw in like economic planning and public policy is really scary to me. I do not want the phasing out of monogamy to affect public policy. They're seeing monogamy as less than ideal because they're not thinking about having and raising kids. That could also be a good point considering the Kool-Aid for child-free life has become so thick in current year. Keep trying to remake everything that got us here, Jesus fucking Christ. And they're constantly inundated with the idea that you cannot have happy monogamous relationships from birth until now. All the media has been angled toward that notion, which is also true. The report from Radin Solicitors, based on responses from 1,000 UK... Okay, hold on. Why are they basing what's gonna happen in the US on a response survey from 1,000 UK residents? Why are they talking about the US when the survey is from the UK? Hold on, wait a minute. The UK is vastly more fucked than we are. What is this fucking retardation? I found that nearly 1 in 3 people, 31%, believe monogamy is no longer a realistic ideal in modern relationships. This perspective was more common among younger adults, with 42% of those aged 18 to 24 saying monogamy was an outdated concept. Views on monogamy were similar between men and women. However, men were slightly more likely to believe it's still a realistic ideal, with 69% saying so compared to 67% of women. That's very interesting. It's very interesting that the men are the ones holding on to the more romantic ideal. Women have had the romance beaten out of them in the search for strong, independent womanhood, I guess. UK, suddenly things are making a lot more sense. God damn. God damn. Not really a problem for the UK. They'll be majority Muslim in 20 years. Oh, you know, I wonder if that's part of having the effect on it, right? Because aren't you able to have, like, multiple wives in certain sects of Islam? Womanhood is gone because they need to be career-focused for modern feminism. I hate it! I hate being career-focused. Let me be a pudding woman. Many people are staying in relationships far longer than what might be healthy, with 68% of respondents admitting to staying in a relationship longer than they wanted to. Isn't this just like literally every generation where people get into a long-term relationship or a marriage and they become comfortable with the person even if they're unhappy? right? Even if they're unhappy, they're just like, I don't want to leave, I'll just cheat on them because that's easier than getting rid of where I feel emotionally comfortable. I feel like this is very, like you guys were saying, very propaganda pushy. But just because it's propaganda pushy doesn't mean that it's not real and it's not happening, right? Look at how much propaganda was pumped into millennial women of like, you don't want to have kids, you want to be a strong, independent, single career woman, you want to have your own money, you want to be beholden to no man, you want all of this dumb bullshit. And many people were just like, well, that's dumb and stupid and no one will ever fall for it. But look at us now. Look at the suicide rate of women entering their 40s. Look at how many of them are unhappy. Look at how many of them want a male provider because that is hard-coded into their biology. But when you're a career woman who's like a high-class executive and you're making like $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year, what kind of a fucking man are you going to be able to get as a provider when your income is that high? The answer is probably fucking none, because the men who make the money at that bracket are not looking for a 40-year-old career woman. They're looking for a woman who can bear them children. So even if we look back at the propaganda that was pumped into the millennial women, a lot of it was successful. A lot of it, people were like, oh, well, this will never happen. People aren't going to be this dumb. It's like things are going to continue business as usual. They did the ostrich in the sand. And that's what's happening here, I fear, as well, where Zoomers are being pumped full and have been pumped full all of this propaganda for ages to steer their life in a certain direction, and it's working. And whenever I bring out people who say that this is the case, I just get told, no, Zoomers are actually based and red-pilled and more conservative than ever. And it's like, sure, you could say the same thing about millennial women, I suppose, but look what happened with that. This often came down due to emotional and financial reasons, with 19% staying due to a shared living environment. A different survey cited by Fox News Digital reported that 57% of Gen Z is willing to consider a non-monogamous relationship. That's a lot of people with self-esteem issues. The research conducted by Ashley Madison via YouGov found that Gen Z accounted for 40% of new members on the platform in 2022. Among Gen Z Ashley Madison users, 59% expressed interest in open or polyamorous relationships. And for people who don't know what Ashley Madison is, they've been in the news before. They are basically an infidelity dating website, where if you want to cheat on your spouse or if you want an open relationship, you make a profile on Ashley Madison. That's where you go. Similarly, a Thriving Center of Psychology survey found that 2 in 5 young adults, Gen Z and millennials, view marriage as outdated. That's actually really sad. Thank you, Butterdog. I needed you in this darkness. Internet Zen Master, thank you. Ashley Madison. Suddenly this entire article makes sense. The study is literally Ashley Madison propaganda. No, it's not. They're talking about multiple different studies. The first study they were talking about was one in the UK from Radin Solicitors. There was another one conducted by Ashley Madison via YouGov that found something else. There was another survey cited by Fox News Digital. There was another survey. We're talking about Thriving Center of Psychology. So this isn't just one survey and it isn't just one place doing it. These are multiple surveys. You don't understand how millennials got so bad? Growing up, we seemed so based. After college, they all crumpled to propaganda. Well, you know, the effects of propaganda can't be noticed until it's already taken root. Which is, again, why I've been screaming about the bridge nonsense so fucking much. Because while people are celebrating that it's going away and the bridge people are trying to embed it in everyday corporate lifestyles so that everyone in every job at every company is going to have to do the work, it's like you're not going to notice how bad this problem is until we're already stuck in it if we don't do something to counter it right now. We have that opportunity. Do not squander it, or else there will be someone, 15 years from now reading an article on this shit with people being like, well, that's just not true. This is just a big bridge propaganda. Despite this, 83% still hoped to marry someday, suggesting that while traditional forms of commitment are being questioned, the desire for long-term companionship persists. The survey also detected economic anxieties and a belief that marriage is not required for a fulfilling relationship. See, this is actually really sad. 2 in 5 Gen Z and millennials view marriage as outdated, but despite them thinking it's outdated, 83% still hoped to be married someday. This is like massive disillusionment where both men and women feel like long-term monogamous relationships are impossible because cheating is an inevitability. And that's a really depressing mindset to have, in my opinion. Gender differences are pronounced. 29% of female Ashley Madison members cited seeking multiple partners to fulfill emotional needs, compared to 9% of male members. To fulfill emotional needs, can we get those percentages on fulfilling sexual needs, though? And also, don't be an emotional sponge for someone. I've had too many dude friends who have just literally been emotional sponges for women. Like, they'll come to the dude and they'll complain about stuff, and the dude is just like, I really hope to have a relationship with you. And she's like, oh, I'm just so busy with schoolwork and like, oh, my college classes, there's so many of them. And then I have a part-time job and I can't. I have to focus on my studies. By the way, let me tell you about this guy I went on a date with a week ago. I was like, don't let someone do that to you, dude. Dick in glass case syndrome. Like, if it's different if you have a friend and you haven't like tried to date them, but if they know that you have feelings above friendship and they only talk to you when they want something or they want to like fucking complain about other dudes to you, you're an emotional sponge and don't be used like one. Roughly 21% of surveyed women said that they could not be happy in a monogamous relationship, compared to 15% of men. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. What do you mean you couldn't be happy in a monogamous relationship? What does that even mean? Moreover, 60% of Gen Z users on the platform preferred to keep their sex lives private. Well, that's just common sense. Economic factors such as student debt, cost of living, and housing instability have repeatedly been cited as reasons for delaying or avoiding traditional monogamous relationships. Well, that also doesn't make any sense. What does your student loans have to do with you getting in a long-term relationship? I guess unless you've taken on so much debt, nobody fucking wants your ass. Hey guys, I'm debt-free, and I've heard that's really sexy in current year. A prior Newsweek report noted that Gen Z is the loneliest generation, with 46% single, and many see independence, self-care, and financial security as critical priorities before considering committed relationships. Isn't this just like normal? Like, you want to be able to be independent, you don't want to start a codependent long relationship, you want to be able to have like self-care, although for some reason self-care to some people is like being able to fuck whoever whenever. And financial security is also something that makes sense before getting into a relationship, right? Like, I don't understand. Normal for this generation. You've legit heard people saying that they were only going to get married for tax reasons? Oh, I've heard that a lot as well. Dr. Wendy Walsh, a relationship expert from Dating Advice, told Newsweek, our culture puts pressures on us and it can impact our sexual behavior. Religion is a good example of a cultural invention that impacts sexual behavior. Mating marketplaces are a big one too. If one is born in a small town and has very few mate choices, surprise, surprise, they may behave in a monogamous way. I don't like this last sentence. I don't like the fact where they're just like, oh, if you have more choices, it just makes more sense to be non-monogamous. The only reason you behave in a monogamous way is because you have few mate choices. That's kind of a deranged way to look at it. That's really sad. That's like when you talk to somebody who does like polygamy and they're just like, oh, you have to be mature to handle like a polyamorous relationship. And it's like, it's okay if you're not mature enough to handle that. It's like, wow, that's kind of fucked up, you freak. Brian Driscoll, an HR consultant who specializes in generational differences, told Newsweek, I think Gen Z just sees the world for what it is. Messy, over-leveraged, and full of broken promises. Maybe that's attributable to youth, but it also strikes envy. So it's no surprise they're rethinking many ways of life, including monogamy. When job security is a myth, housing is out of reach, and climate collapse feels inevitable, why cling to outdated relationship models that don't reflect reality? I was with him on all of these negative points until the climate collapse feels inevitable. They've been telling us that the climate collapse is inevitable since like 1960s. It just hasn't happened, which is why I don't buy into any climate crisis fucking nonsense. Ongoing generational shifts in attitude toward monogamy and marriage are likely to influence future family structures, policy responses, and social norms in the US. Questioning monogamy isn't a sign of moral decline, it's a sign of honesty, a rejection of a one-size-fits-all solution, in favor of relationships built on consent, communication, and clarity, Driscoll said. That might unsettle people who prefer the illusion of tradition over the work of transparency. Look, it's again that condescending fucking speak where they're just like, yes, you losers caught up on tradition and monogamy just don't understand. You don't have the intelligence to comprehend just how much better non-monogamy is. It's all about consent and communication and transparency, things that your traditional monogamy clearly can never have. Like, oh my god, dude. Researchers anticipated continued rise in alternative relationship arrangements, along with evolving expectations about commitment, privacy, and partnership. However, Walsh said it's natural for the younger generation to be less likely to adopt monogamous ideals. This is the age of experimentation, Walsh said. This is the age of auditioning partners. This is the age of gender and sexual fluidity. It makes sense that young people in any study would say that monogamy may not be realistic for them. The mating marketplace has changed enormously for Gen Z as well, Walsh said. This entire, like, paragraph here, with, like, the auditioning partners and the age of, like, fluidity and fucking shit like that, this just makes me think of the fucking young college girl who, like, sucks and fucks her way through college with, like, hundreds of men. And then she's like, oh, I'm finally ready to settle down now that I've had 300 dicks inside of me. It makes me think of that, but like both men and women and on a large generational scale instead of just segregated to college women. So the average OnlyFans thought, and I distinctly remember a few articles talking about how there was a large chunk of girls who could not wait until they turned 18 so that they could start an OnlyFans because they saw it as a viable way to make money. And we trashed on that article when I read it like a year and some change ago, because most of the women on OnlyFans do not make good money. And a lot of the articles talking about some of the top earning women on OnlyFans do that to encourage more women to make an OnlyFans account, despite the fact that it will do nothing but hurt them reputationally. So it's just like, it's all fucking propaganda all the way down, man. I hate it. The mating marketplace has enormously changed for Gen Z as well. We are seeing an oversupply of successful women in this age and an undersupply of marriageable men for these women. Hey, that's what I said earlier with the other propaganda that fucked us. Hey, look at that. For every man who graduates college, there are 2 women. Thanks, DEI. Women now make up the majority of the American workforce. I'm talking about education and economics. I don't think it's a good thing to talk about how women make up the majority of the workforce in education when we've recognized that educational institutions are mostly propaganda camps that don't actually prepare children for the real world, and they don't actually give them any kind of skills that can be transferable to any kind of jobs. I think this is actually a point against having that many women in the workforce, actually. So, like, I guess thank you for agreeing with me, Mr. Walsh. There are many, many great guys that these women should choose to be monogamous with because they would be great husbands and fathers. But many of these high-achieving women perceive them as less valuable. And so, with no marriageable men on the horizon, many women are experimenting with multiple partners, sharing high-status men, or choosing same-sex relationships. I love men too much to ever choose same-sex relationships. Sorry, Article W. Yeah, I mean, this is like entirely the point that I was making earlier. That like women's suicide rates are skyrocketing. Women's depression rates have already skyrocketed. I don't think they'll ever actually catch up to men, but they are way higher than they've ever been ever. And it's like when women are hard-coded to want a provider, to want a man's man to provide and care for them, but they are the strong, independent career women who cannot find a man who would be a provider based on the job that they have chosen. Like, you've put yourself in a catch-22 here. Like, yeah, there's going to be plenty of good men, but you don't want to go for them because they're not going to be providers. And it's like, it's odd, and I'm sure sometimes when these women go on to date men, they also give these men a bit of a complex, right? Men are hard-coded to want to be providers, to want to be caretakers for their women and their families. And so when a man is out with a woman and the woman can just do absolutely everything herself, she doesn't need the man for anything, he's not going to feel like he's necessary. He's not going to feel needed, which I think is something talked about in psychology that men need to feel. They need to feel like they are necessary for things. And if you're with a strong, independent career woman and you're not a provider in that situation, how are you going to feel needed? If she can get absolutely everything she needs emotionally, sexually, financially from anyone else, how are you going to feel necessary? It turns into a competition at that point? Yeah. And like I've talked to dudes and they've just been like, you know, I make good money, like I'm making, you know, like low six figures, and I feel like I'm comfortable and confident in my job and I still have ways to move up in it. But if I were to date someone like you, I would feel like I don't make enough money to provide the kind of life that you should have. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what do you even mean? Like, I make decent money now from streaming, but I still live like fucking Asmongold, basically. But when you become like a career woman, people just have that, I wouldn't say expectation, but they have that sort of train of thought on you where it's like, oh, she can do everything herself, so what would she need me for? And that gives men a bit of a complex because, again, the biological hardwiring. Look at this unfair left-leaning fairness meter on the Newsweek. That's funny. But yeah, again, like don't take any kind of polls and surveys at 100% truth, but I wouldn't say 100% discount them either. Because regardless of what the real numbers are, this is kind of what they're saying they want the generation to be like. It's less this is what the generation is overall, and this is more, this is what we're trying to cultivate them into being. Hawaii woman Hannah Kobayashi breaks silence months after controversial disappearance. Hannah Kobayashi's father died after traveling to California to search for her. They put that very blandly. He killed himself. He committed suicide after he went to try and find his daughter. Hannah Kobayashi, who made national headlines when she disappeared in 2024, is speaking publicly after months of silence. In a recent Instagram story, the Hawaii woman thanked those who searched for her and addressed the controversy surrounding her disappearance. In my statement, I expressed my deepest gratitude for everyone who supported me with love and compassion. Anything I say would be scrutinized and picked apart, so I chose to keep it simple, truthful, and from my heart. I hate this woman. In November 2024, Kobayashi disappeared after flying from Maui to Los Angeles International Airport. She was scheduled to continue to New York, but never boarded her connecting flight. Police later said they believed she missed the flight intentionally. Weeks later, the LAPD said she was safe in Mexico, and her family said that she safely returned to the US in December. The disappearance took a tragic turn when Ryan Kobayashi, Hannah's father, was discovered dead in a parking lot near LAX after traveling to Los Angeles to help find his daughter. The medical examiner determined that he had died by suicide. And this was extra weird because he had left Hawaii to go to Los Angeles, and he had been there, I want to say it was like less than 2 weeks, and then he killed himself. And then we later found out that, like, she was supposed to go to New York for her aunt, and her aunt was, like, some social media lady, and then the aunt and the rest of the family were, like, fighting over, like, the rights to the story or some shit. I don't really know what the fuck was going on, but everyone in this family was incredibly fucking suspicious, except for the father. The case sparked intense public debate, with some people questioning Kobayashi's actions. One Instagram user, Gina East Meets West, commented under Kobayashi's recent post. Seek help, they said. Your selfish and immature behavior cost your dad's life, put your family through immense suffering, and cost public resources. Not once did you take any sort of accountability. She did not reply to this comment. Of course she didn't, because she's a narcissistic cunt. Another user asked Kobayashi why she didn't attend her father's funeral. We feel like we were fighting for nothing, they wrote. I didn't know she didn't attend her father's funeral. That's fucking disgusting. Holy shit. What is this woman? Kobayashi expressed gratitude in her response, but didn't address their question. Fighting for something you believe in is never for nothing, Kobayashi said on Instagram. Thank you for everything, truly and sincerely. Kobayashi also told the San Francisco Gate that she plans to share more details about her disappearance soon, saying she wants to address the criticism she's received. Kobayashi didn't respond to ABC News' request for comment, and as of Tuesday, Kobayashi has not answered questions about her father's death publicly. Why would she say that she plans to share more details soon and not just share them now? She told People that she had been unaware of the media coverage of her disappearance. My focus now is on my healing, my peace, and my creativity. And I remember bashing this fucking cunt for saying that when that came out. 6 months after her disappearance, Kobayashi was taken to social media, spoken with SFgate, to share her thoughts on her loss and address her critics. In an Instagram story posted over the weekend, she spoke to the camera and thanked every single person who dedicated time and energy into looking for me. Kobayashi didn't address the death of her father directly, but said, "Every day is such a gift, especially after such loss and pain and suffering. We should all learn to be kind to one another." Why is it that whenever someone does something wrong, this is always the fucking dumb shit that they spout? And also, Instagram stories are only temporary, and I hate that these people are journalists and didn't save an archive of the videos. But it's okay, we don't need journalists for archive because people on Twitter will do it for them. So we have these videos from her Instagram story.
Hi everyone. And take the time to say how grateful I am for everyone, every single person who dedicated time and energy into looking for me. And I just want to say thank you. It means the world to me. And I want to express that in person to you.
I feel like this woman has no soul behind her eyes. Like when she speaks, it feels like a politician. Like there's no sincerity behind the words that they're saying. They're just saying them because they think it's what they're supposed to say to make people think they're a good person.
Thank you. Thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart. Every day is such a gift. Especially after such loss and pain and suffering. We should all learn to be kind to one another, no matter the circumstances. And cherish every single moment that we can. Because we are all connected.
What? I have a burning hatred for this woman. And it's like, you know, if there were men out there who thought that this woman was representative of like the average American woman, like I would get it, man. I would get your fucking disgusting MG Tau ideologies. I would probably agree with you. if this is what someone thought the average woman was like, holy shit. You want to crack a thesaurus open and start yapping? And ASMR, but instead of making a relaxing calm, it makes you stressed and angry. I just feel nothing but contempt for this kind of person. Holy shit. She doesn't believe a single word of what she's saying. If she did, she would not be speaking like this. It's insane. Like, I can understand speaking slower and more intentionally when you're trying to, like, make sure you don't fuck up and say something in, like, a weird way. All right, but like, this is... I don't even know what to say. It just makes me just feel gross. Many of the comments from users under her post accused her of neglecting to address her father's death. Kobayashi replied to one user who asked her why she didn't attend his funeral. "You don't know the whole story. My intention in this post is to acknowledge that I'm going to speak about my experience and to stand up against all the hate that was cast upon me. I hope that in your darkest hours you were shown compassion and love versus hate and judgment." I don't know what she could possibly say to make people hate her less. I'm gonna be real. And if she comes out with some sort of like, I'm making a podcast, I have a manager, I feel like people will hate her even more. And then tell us the story, woman, right? Kobayashi told SFGate on Monday that she plans to share more details around her disappearances soon. Given my particular situation, on the other side of my experience, I understand how some people would choose to cast me in a negative light. But I know who I am. I know my truth, and one day I will share it, Kobayashi told SFGate. I do believe that we can all learn to be kinder to one another because we never really know what someone else has been through unless we've walked in their shoes. Can we pray to Xibalba and trade her for her father? Can we do that, actually? Is that something that we can do? Someone call up some ancient Aztecs for me.
To Xibalba!
Yeah, same. That's our update on a horrendous woman. Unfortunately. I wanted to know what was going on with Market Basket. Because Market Basket is like my grocery store of choice when I am back in my home area. I love the Market Bucket, the Demoulas, as it were. And I know that a few years back, there was like a family feud between like the part of the family that owned the Demoulas and the part of the family that owned the Market Bucket. But like, I don't remember everything about it exactly. Market Basket's board of directors placed CEO Arthur T. Demoulas and several others on paid administrative leave Wednesday, launching an investigation into allegations that Demoulas was planning a work stoppage. The supermarket chain's executive committee believes Demoulas and others were considering the stoppage as improper retaliation for the board's directives requiring the CEO to work with the board regarding the most basic corporate oversight and to provide the board access to key employees, according to a press release. The board also claims Demoulas wants to appoint his children as his successors without considering the opinions of Market Basket executives. Justine Griffin, a spokesperson for Demoulas, said that he was voted out by his three sisters and board members Jay Hachigian, Stephen Collins, and Michael Keyes. The others placed on leave include Demoulas' daughter, Madeline, and son, Telemachus. Who names their son Telemachus? According to Griffin. Market Basket shoppers in Gloucester were shocked and saddened by the news. He's done a great job with the store and I hope it doesn't change, said one shopper. He's been a great person to work for, according to people who I know, so yeah, this does concern me very much, said another. One shopper said she knew of a Market Basket employee with cancer who had to leave the job for a year. Artie paid his salary, I think that means paid. Artie paid his salary and he paid his health benefits. And his job was there when he got back. That speaks for Artie, she said. Workers and customers also rallied around Demoulas in the summer of 2014 when he was fired by the board. At the time, the board was led by his cousin, Arthur S. Demoulas. Hundreds of Market Basket employees went on strike for 6 weeks, I remember this strike, accusing the company of prioritizing shareholder profits over people. The protest led to millions in losses for the company before Arthur S. and the board finally agreed to sell a majority stake to Arthur T., reinstating him as the CEO and ending the strike. Griffin called the current investigation into Demoulas a farcical cover for a hostile takeover. Under Mr. Demoulas' leadership in December of 2024, the company paid off $1.6 billion in debt that financed the purchase of the company in 2014. The company is currently operating at its peak performance, Griffin said. In their press release, the board said Market Basket will continue to provide its customers superior products and service at prices they have come to expect. So the board is getting revenge. Yeah, so I'm kind of interested in what is going on here, because it seems like most people want Arthur to be the owner and want him to be able to steer the direction of the company, but it seems like other people in the Demoulas family, much like in 2014, kind of disagree with the way that he runs things, despite people who are outside of the board of directors being happy with the way he runs things. So I haven't been in Mass and New Hampshire for quite a while, other than visiting my family, so I am not all on the up and up of the issues with the Demoulas family right now. Is this some sort of like hostile takeover by the board of directors? Is Arthur being like unfairly fucking targeted here? Because we've also read about other hostile takeovers from the board of directors in regards to DEI nonsense when it came to like Enthusiast Gaming, for example. And so I'm wondering, right, I don't want to dive headfirst into supporting something that I don't know the entire story about, but I have always loved Market Basket. I remember everybody being incredibly upset with the state of people trying to oust Artie back in 2014. I remember when the Market Baskets were all closed because the employees were striking. I lived very close to a Market Basket, and so we had to travel a pretty distance to get groceries for a while. I'd like to introduce my sons, Arthur and Arthur. And so it's like, I don't know, this would be something that I would want to, if I could figure out a way to support, if Arthur is not doing anything nefarious here. But I would need more information. I would need more information on this. Undercover meeting with DNC leader David Hogg reveals who really ran the Biden White House. I don't know why you would say this out loud. I don't know why you would say this. There's my background music.
Yes,
nice to meet you. Yeah.
Off the record, of course.
Foundational question for me is like, how corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden, well, the president of the United States?
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was like the inner circle that was around Biden.
Are they filming this where there's a razor blade on the wall behind this guy's head as some sort of like ominous foreshadowing?
That's it. And I can't stress to you enough. Like Joe Biden's chief of staff, like had an
Hello, computer? Why did you just bring up?
enormous
Okay, that was
amount
weird.
of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was like an open secret at the level. Like, I would avoid him. Like, he was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Trump.
Interesting.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He's like a shadowy, like, Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so, like, I knew how he looked, but I'm like, the general public wouldn't know how this man looked.
Yeah, I've never even heard his name.
He wielded an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had at the White House.
It feels like a mirror to South Korea with the Yoon Suk Yeol being a puppet. Yeah? Yeah. Not a puppet to feminism necessarily, but a puppet nonetheless. Actually, I will never understand how fucking Project Veritas gets so many people to just admit to industry secrets like this. Like, it seems crazy. It seems crazy to me, man. Part 1, DNC Vice Chair David Hogg reveals Jill Biden's chief of staff ran the Biden White House. This is the video we just watched. Let me get this to stop playing here.
Yes,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Project Veritas released part 1 of an explosive undercover investigation revealing shocking truths about who truly controlled the Biden White House. Through covert meetings with David Hogg, vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, and Detarian Jones, former staffer in the Biden White House Office of Digital Strategy, Veritas uncovered a web of influence centered around Jill Biden's chief of staff, Anthony Bernal, and a tight-knit inner circle. In a candid on-camera admission, Hogg said Jill Biden's Chief of Staff, chat, I'm losing my mind in the bunker. Anthony Bernal had an enormous amount of power, emphasizing that the bigger issue was the inner circle that was around Biden. These revelations point to a hidden power structure that operated behind the scenes, raising questions about transparency and accountability in the Biden administration. Detarian Jones, who worked directly in the Biden White House, described Bernal as a shadowy Wizard of Oz type figure who wielded an enormous amount of power. Jones admitted to avoiding Bernal, calling him scary, and noting that his influence was an open secret among staff. These statements expose a culture of fear and unchecked authority within the administration. Which, I mean, again, I think everybody who had functioning brain cells knew that Biden wasn't the one running the country, but it's always nice to have confirmation and also information on who specifically was part of the shadowy cabal. Project Veritas has once again unmasked the secrets of political leaders hiding from the public. This investigation unveils the true power brokers behind the Biden White House, exposing truths the American people have a right to know. And then they just have the twoot down there. The twoot. You're calling him a puppet for a reason. Yep. So Joe Biden had his own deep state running the country? I guess so. It looks kind of goofy where he's peering over my pine schnapple.